I can I could use a gazillion different examples. So I'm going to try and see if I can do this generically, right? And just leave out any names or associations. But I was watching a workshop put on by one group, okay, of teaching celestial mechanic materials, right? And the comment was made that another group, other groups, okay, or opposing groups, were offered to come into the room, open to the public, as like panels, right? So the public could decide for themselves, okay, which material or which science, if you will, they choose to adopt or believe, okay? And so the comment was made that they didn't adopt, they didn't accept the offer, okay? Now, this is being androgynous, which is perfectly balanced, and you think of a polarized universe, it's actually pretty simple, okay? One is always going to be in opposition to the other. So now we're into the RH factor, the negative, okay? So negative electrons, positive electrons, okay? When you become one blast furnace, right, there's only one creation. That's it. We give love to all creation, okay? That's God consciousness. That's the primal sound and light field. You're one with God. You're one with God consciousness. You're one with the source because you're experiencing source through your heart. So you're giving love to everything, okay? Now, the reason that this is so important and why I cry for them so much is because it has to do with healing. They need to heal, okay? That's really what it is, okay? And then you have to get into the other factor, okay? And this is where you get into the denial, okay? All you have to do is look at a particular video that was put up by Patty Broussard in Project Ascension where she covered the genetics, gave you all the codes, all the code changes that were taking place, code changes that the Anunnaki and Draco had done, okay? So when I meet Nathan or I meet Misha and they're going through all that they go through, I could say, here's the data. Now, if you wanted to point your finger and blame somebody, you could blame your parents. You could blame the Anunnaki, your own parents that did what they did to you because now you became what you became. You're an RH negative factor, okay? But through no fault of your own. So process that. Now we're into that movie that I mentioned before about the folks in Palestine, or actually it was just a place that was depicted in the Middle East somewhere, where that young boy, okay, ended up killing a young child. Now he's being held to account for that, accountability and responsibility for our actions. And he blamed his parents for having brought him into creation. So you can translate that through Misha and the 3 altars that she's running and what's happened to her when she asked me to try and help her with this, okay? Well, what am I going to do? Point to the Anunnaki and say, listen, this is your problem. You solved this. You generated this problem, right? But I don't do that because I know where the problem is, okay? They need healing, okay? If they were experiencing the primal sound and source field, which is what love is, they wouldn't have done what they did. Now, would they? So now that their offspring are polarized, okay, so their charge, okay, being negative, they're going to be in opposition to the positive side. Okay, she explained in one of her workshops, for example, how when something is positive created, a negative has to pop up in order to do what? Maintain the balance. So you can measure that across the entire electromagnetic spectrum. When the snake population is up, the hawk population is down. And you can do that across actually all the atoms on the planet, okay, that's running atoms, okay, in water distribution tables, which are log scales. Water columns are mostly water, fire and water, right? So you can translate it in other ways in which I've seen so many posts by somebody putting up about narcissists, a psychopath, a mental pathway, if you will, which simply means that they have no compassion and they have no love and they have no empathy for others. Okay? So when you put this into perspective of creation itself, when it all began, and it began out of what love is, and now you're experiencing something that it isn't a gazillion years down the road, and then you're trying to translate and figure out, well, how did this happen? Why am I experiencing something that's trying to harm me when I'm trying to love and heal them? Right? I had to deal with that at 4 years of age. That's why I cry for them every day. Because it's so painful. Because I experienced what they experienced. Remember, now we're back to when I was 9 years of age with the guy that was losing bow voltage. Any loss of any electron, wherever I happen to be in the universe, I'm going to detect it and experience it. Okay? So in order to restore me, I got to restore it. That's called healing. All of it. That's what a cosmic reset is. That's the episode that was put up. Restoration, right? Which means everything that we do out of love for you. So that you can be free. So you're not needing to hold energy, which is consciousness, captive as a source of energy to control. Now we're back to the simple, and this is where it was so beautiful on the one hand, but on the other hand, you can see, if you will, the learning process that you go through when I jumped into Alcoholics Anonymous and went through the 3rd edition of the Big Book, because there's so much wisdom about how it works. You first got to admit that you got a problem, and for a psychopath, that's going to be a difficult process, isn't it? Okay? That's where, because I've been in thousands of these rooms, okay, I've been around so many of these people and trying to do it myself. Okay, so I know what the biggest step is admitting, okay, the problem that you have within yourself. But probably if there is a step that why most alcoholics or drug addicts, as a result of the trauma that leads to self-abuse by what they do to others, which is really what they do to themselves. Remember, what I do to you, I do to me, which is further fractures of light. The mirror effect. And so the step that I noticed, because the AA home office in New York City, as I remember it, used to keep statistics, but it's it's almost impossible to be able to keep track of all that, even though it is tracked. Okay, it's not like the AI doesn't have the information in the library unless you're able to be undetectable with a stealth code. In that case, you wouldn't be a practicing alcoholic, would you? Because you're experiencing lower stuff as a result of what we're doing to ourselves as a result of trauma, right? The trauma that we experience as a result of what? The things we do to ourselves, or the things that others do to us, that they do to themselves. So now when you put this across the spectrum between negative and positive, which is calculus, right? Between two magnets in a planet, two magnetic poles, you see how this works. When you become one magnet, which is a single pole, now your nuclear blast furnace, because both reaction states become one, that's not polarized. That's zero charge. No charge for electrons. You're experiencing free energy. You're experiencing what love is on autopilot. It means you're always experiencing what love is through your heart and your soul. So you always have love to give, because that's the energy we experience. So it's natural for us to do that. That means we've learned how to self-heal ourselves. Because how are we going to be able to help others if we haven't been able to help ourselves as a result of the abuse that we experience? That's basic logic, right? So step 4, okay, is called an inventory, which means if you accepted the fact that you want to heal yourself, you want to go through the healing process, and there is a support function in place through others that you're with who suffer just like you do. That's what those rooms are filled with. People that could tell you stories about all the crap they've been through their whole life from childhood. Okay? Of all the horror stories is really what they are. Of how they even made it and they're still alive when they tell you their stories of being still alive to do that. But step 4 is the hardest one, which means now you got to take an inventory of everything that you can remember that's held in memory of things that we have done to harm others. Okay? And then make an attempt, which is called an amends, to heal others that we have harmed, which is healing ourselves. So it starts with ourselves, healing ourselves. Wanting to take inventory of ourselves, our true self. So what this is a process of remembering who we really are. Okay? Before the trauma, which is to experience what love is, which is what God is, in living spirit. So the 4-step inventory means now we're going to get real honest. And I know because I spent a number of days, and I think there was probably 26 pages of things that I could remember going all the way back to my earliest childhood. And what I had done when I talked about the history of the drug interaction that I had, working with folks that were bringing in all the drug distribution through the CIA and Timothy Leary and that whole gang, that crew, right? That mob crew, you know, working with the CIA and the U.S. military, and the impact that had on me that led to further use of drugs. And then when I got off that, when I was able to get rid of that stuff out of memory, right? An application program interface, I jumped into alcohol, of all things, when here I was as a child pouring booze down the drain all the time because my mother was doing the same thing. Trying to be a parent to my parent, trying to help my mother. And then I ended up doing the same thing to myself. Right? And so once you've done an inventory, that means you're really looking into your own mirror. And you're wanting to clean that mirror. You're wanting to restore the mirror, which is to restore the light, which is to restore the spirit. Right? So now you're running on higher energy. Now you love who you are. Right? You remember who you are. You remember you were born out of what love is. So you know that creation was born out of what love is. Now you're experiencing what love is. Now you're experiencing being loved. Right? And that's why step 12, not coincidentally, 12 clans, 12 tribes, 12 strands. Okay? It's all coded in Alcoholics Anonymous. Okay? They got a circle inside of a triangle. That's why it's called anonymous. Which means when you walk in there, it doesn't matter where you come from, what part of the universe you come from. We're all there for you, right? It's all about healing, restoring your spirit, restoring your light, experiencing more love, and healing yourself. Okay? And so step 12, what is that? Love and service to others. Now you're back in service mode because you're experiencing God consciousness. And that's what God is, giving away free energy so that everybody's got enough energy to live in peace, harmony, and balance with the one, the law of one, which is do no harm. Now you're not going to experience any trauma by doing harm to others. Because when you do something to somebody else in the directed use of your energy, which is your mirror, it's harming somebody else. Now you're experiencing the harm you're doing to somebody else. Okay? So you realize by using simple math that when you do that, okay, that's a deduction, a deductor, right? You're deducting energy from your own account, so to speak. Why would you do that to yourself? Lack of healing, lack of love, lack of compassion, lack of empathy. So now we come full circle. Cosmic level reset. The gears are already been set. I know that because I did a hard reset on me in 2016. That's why I'm hearing the echo sphere. Right? Yeah. So that's the best news that anybody could hear. I remember the other day I watched a short video about, and this ties directly into things that you just know through your heart and your soul. But I've mentioned it to Misha's own children. You have no idea. This is the greatest celebration, believe it or not, in the history of this universe, of the universal and galactic template. It is. It is. I remember I said to Logan, which is her 14-year-old son, there'll come a day. There will come a day and you will begin to realize you remember what I said to you in that van that day over on the island of Oahu about 3 years ago that I happened to mention that to you. That you have all the reason in the universe to be celebrating life with love because what you've been experiencing, because what Logan has to go through is, this is a young man that powers down marijuana on just almost on a constant basis because his nerves are just shot as a result of what? Being in the company of his mother, because his mother's energy is just all over the place, right? It's just, you don't know what's going to happen next. But whatever it is, I can almost guarantee you it's going to be trauma that her children experience. And I know because that's how I came into that family, was to try and assist her and both her children. And so you see what happens, how that works. So this is really a grand celebration. It really is. Those that know that, right? And those that don't, right, either don't want to acknowledge that or they're not experiencing it because of knowing it through their own heart and soul. Right? Anyway, that's my 2 cents for the day. But yeah, it's polarity drama is really what it is. And it's for me, it's painful. Okay, because it's like something that will just doesn't have the capacity on any level just to go. What I do is the way I've done it ever since early childhood. It's just I keep it simple. I am what love is. What are you? And if you're not experiencing what love is, how come? Because I got plenty to give you. So it's got to begin out of what love is, because it does no harm. It's just too simple. Okay? And so, if a 4-year-old child can tell you that to all the parents, right? It's like, hey, where did you come from? Remember my dad? Where'd you learn all this stuff? It's simple, Pop. Okay? I love you too. You do? Yeah. You want me to show you? So we got a gazillion ways from Sunday to show that. Now your creative engine is on fire to show you how powerful love is, and accelerating the speed at which it can create things to show you how love works in motion, in spirit motion. Look around. It's all in front of you. It's in your mirror. That's why I love my mirror. I'm in love with my mirror, everything that's in that mirror. Right? Yeah. Anyway, have a beautiful day. Sun's out. I do love this island. Very powerful energies here. Very powerful day yesterday. Have a beautiful day, everyone. We love you all. Take care of yourselves. Be good to yourselves.